Hi guys, thought I'd do this video basically to address some of the flack I got for one of my last videos, which was the one where I said I had a bit of a love-hate relationship with vintage watches. Now here are some of my watches that I've kept in my collection, which I had purchased usually relatively very cheaply, and they've usually been in quite a nasty, dirty condition, scratched up and whatnot, often not working. And I've spent a lot of time and effort cleaning these watches up, often getting them to work again. Usually if they're overwound or I've introduced a little bit of lubrication, and that's got them going again. And this is just to show that I am interested in vintage watches. I love vintage watches. And I think I've saved some really old vintage watches that weren't working, that were in a terrible state, and I've got them cleaned up, I've got them working again. And there is the Longines that was in that video, excuse me, which had stopped working. I bought this about a year ago and it was perfectly working, and it just packed up out of the blue. So in that last video I explained how I just put, I think I showed how I put a drop of lighter fluid onto the balance wheel jewel, and that, although I was told it won't work, but apparently what happens is you can just put a bit on the back plate, and I don't recommend you do this because, as others have said, it can move a lot of dirt around and perhaps get into the mechanism and cause wear and tear if it creates a paste. But I just put a small drop on top of the balance wheel jewel directly this time, and as that evaporates, the theory is that it gets into the dried oil that's underneath it and kind of rejuvenates the viscosity of it. And in this case it does seem to have worked. The watch is still going and it's keeping good time. Now a lot of flack I come under with the comments was, oh, you know, you bought this vintage watch, you really love it, but you're not prepared to pay out to have it serviced. Now there are people you can find on eBay that will service a watch for £50, and as it was pointed out to me, this is probably only a basic service where they might re-lubricate the oil under, or renew the oil that's underneath the flywheel jewel, and perhaps the rest of the watch they put into a cleaning machine. So it's not a real proper service where they strip it down and clean each individual part properly and rebuild, which can take many hours, and of course that's going to cost probably £150 plus, depending on the watch and how complicated the movement is. So all these watches I've got are working, and I mean that one on the left hand side, the West End, that wasn't working, that's working now. And not all the watches I've got are cheap. The Tudor, that cost me, I think it was £300. I haven't touched the mechanism on that whatsoever. That's pretty much the condition I bought it in. I've just changed the strap. This fun Elvis memorabilia one from the 70s, yeah, that wasn't working. It was overwound. I released the unwind. I think I'll put a little dab of lighter fuel on the jewel, and it's working perfectly, keeping good time, and cleaned it up. It was absolutely, I've never seen such a grotty watch. The strap was green basically, and now it's looking pretty fabulous. The old Smith's Astrolong, I bought that not working, and I haven't done anything to the mechanism because it's a sealed, the back of that is actually, it's a non-maintenance movement. That's the whole point of these. It just works. I mean, I think it just likes me. I cleaned up the watch, put a new strap on it, and the thing's working. It's a bit tricky to wind sometimes. You have to kind of go backwards to go forwards occasionally. It won't catch because it has a plastic part mechanism on that, and I have a video all about this watch. I just took it off its cushion there to show you the maintenance-free mechanism of this watch. Very interesting. Pretty rare. And I really like that. It looks good as well, especially on this sports style leather strap. So for people saying I don't really like vintage watches, what am I doing? I do. I love vintage watches. Same for this Eastern European Petunia, which I've researched the history about this. It's kind of a collaboration between Tunisia and Eastern Germany. There's a lot of history about that watch, which also I explained in one of my other videos, and that wasn't working very well, and it was pretty grotty, and now it's looking really good. One of my favourite watches that I bought, the Tissot Sea Star, that's always worked fantastically, but again, it was in terrible shape when I bought it, and I've spent quite a lot of time getting that looking much better. And that's part of the fun for me as well. If I can pick up a watch that's cheap, that's in a bit of a state, and improve the look of it, I like to do that. That's my Omega DeVille. Unfortunately, that's not working. I did try a new battery, but it won't work. I bought it not working. Again, it was in a very grotty state, but now it's at least looking good. Maybe I could do a quartz mod movement swap on there one day, or get someone to do it for me. But at the moment, I'm just leaving it as it is. It's one I don't have to worry about packing up because it doesn't work anyway. And this one doesn't really seem to have too much value, but I love this. I've worn this many times. Did a lot of work on this, getting this cleaned up. This Seiko Chronos. Again, put a new battery in it. It's working perfectly. Really lovely, lovely watch. And here's some of the others I've got. Again, cleaned them up. This one, you couldn't even see the dial when I bought it. The glass was so yellow and the face was dirty. It wasn't working. It was overwound, and now it's working. It's running a bit fast, but it's been working. It's been working strong for a long time. This one I bought for 99 pence. Terrible state, wasn't working, automatic. Cleaned it up the best I can, put a new strap on it, and now it's working, and it's keeping good time. This little Invicta, same story. Working, keeping, I think that's keeping pretty good time. Still working. Had to do the same trick again with that. I know you shouldn't, but I only paid, a few pounds for that. I'm not going to spend £150 servicing it. I bought it not working. I was pleased that I managed to get it going. And for me, as a collector, I'm not going to wear it very often, if at all. It's basically going to sit in my collection, and I wind it occasionally and it's running. So, for me, that's pretty good. Same with this Rex Hora. That was in a really grotty state. Spent a lot of time cleaning that up, polishing up the crystal, which was all scratched, getting it looking better. Another one that wasn't working, it was overwound. Little bit of lubrication, that's been working great. But yeah, of course, all these would benefit from a proper professional service. But can you imagine the hundreds of pounds I'd have to spend getting all these serviced? I'm just glad to get them into a basic working condition, if possible. It's not always possible, doesn't always work. But with these, it's worked, and they are still running. Probably one of my bigger successes was this one. And this was very tarnished Omega pocket watch. Wasn't working. And just with a bit of a clean up, bit of lubrication, it's come up really nice. And as you can see, it's working. I'm sure people will jump all over me. How dare I clean this pocket watch up and get it into a basic working condition? Well, I have. I'm going to keep it. It wasn't working at all, and it was filthy and didn't look very nice at all. The case didn't shut properly. I've got that where it's all closing properly. And now it looks jolly nice, I think. I'm pleased that I did that. And I've got some satisfaction from doing it. And the watch, I think it cost me £60, so I think it looks pretty good for that. And one of my latest acquisitions was that little Citizen Eagle 7. Now this was one I haven't had to do anything really to. Nice little automatic, apart from a basic polish up. And that's been working absolutely perfect. Haven't had to do anything apart from cosmetic cleaning with that one. So I don't know if this will address people's fears that I'm completely ruining vintage watches and what am I doing, leave it to the professionals and all this type of thing. Now most of these watches I just paid a few pounds for. Even that Tissot Sea Star, I picked that up for about like £24. And the reason was no one wanted it. It was completely scratched to you know what. Really looked bad. So I put a lot of time and effort into that, getting it into the condition it is now. I mean, the one thing it did actually work. So that's what I enjoy about vintage watches. Getting on eBay, having a scroll around, bidding on old watches, perhaps ones that aren't in very good condition. And occasionally I'll win them for the price I want. And then there's the fun of getting them home and perhaps pulling them apart and cleaning them up. Sometimes managing to actually get them work with my rudimental bodging skills. Now here's one I just bought fairly recently. This was in an appalling state. You couldn't read the dial. It was filthy. I've managed to clean it up as much as I can, but I can't get that one working. So that's one I might get a strap for it and put it back onto eBay. Obviously it's got a nice Swiss movement and somebody can perhaps take that to the next stage and get that working. But it looks a lot better than it did when it first arrived. So there you go. I've just given all these a wind this morning, a couple of hours ago. So I do give my watches a wind every couple of weeks, even though they just sat in a display box. The Tudor has a screw down crown. It's a Tudor Oyster. So the screw down crown is because it's an early watch with kind of water resistance. And it was aimed at people going swimming and that type of thing. So I keep that unscrewed because I don't want to mess up the thread. So by keeping it unscrewed, all I need to do is just wind it every couple of weeks. Now there's nothing wrong with the thread, but it's very old and I don't want to mess that thread up. So by keeping it in that position, I can wind it, but I'm not having to keep screwing the thing up and unscrewing it, which there's more chance of cross-threading it. But occasionally I will wear that, and of course then I will screw it in properly. Anyway guys, I'm sorry if I offended some of the watch professionals out there. Please don't worry. I'm going to be keeping hold of the Longines for foreseeable future. So, I mean, it cost me £80. It's working. I just wanted one in my collection. I'm happy with that. It's a beautiful watch. I really do like it. I don't know if I like it enough to spend £200 to service it, because that would make it financially not viable. Because some of these also maybe are a little bit kind of investment as well. something to put your money into, which may be an investment, especially where I've improved the look of them, so hopefully added a little bit of value to them as well. I mean, with the Tissot C-Star, I only spent, say, 20 odd pounds on it. I've spent about £5 on the strap and quite a bit of time and effort cleaning it up. But these do make quite good money. That has the Omega movement in it. The movement that was shared with Omega, can't remember off the top of my head the movement number, but it's on one of my other videos. So I did well with that watch. So it is a good investment. You know, for 20 odd pounds, I may have something that's probably worth at least 100, maybe up to 300. They all seem to go for different prices. But that was quite a good buy, I think. And even this Omega that's not working, now I've cleaned it up, it's absolutely near immaculate with a bit of wear on the gold. And that was an £80 purchase. So I think even not working, that was a good buy. It's not going to go down in price. Someone could fix the mechanism, or they could put a more modern quartz mechanism inside there so that it works. Beautiful watch. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Please try not to be too concerned that I'm wrecking vintage watches. I'm learning. I'm doing the best I can. And perhaps if I had the correct tools, I have got some watch screwdriver sets, but they are not machined right. I just got them out quickly. They're a little bit haphazardly put in, but these watch screwdrivers, which you can pick up on eBay, they've got the replacement heads. They fit in the end there. They look great, and they are the correct sizes, but they're machined terribly. So the ends of these screwdriver ends, you can probably even see from there, it's not a good enough shape and machined well enough to actually unscrew the screws. So they look the part, but they're pretty much useless. Some of these I had a little bit more success with, and I've even tried sanding the end of the flathead screwdrivers to make them a bit more precise, which did help, using a bit of wet and dry, because again, they just aren't machined well enough to do some of the very small screws. They're okay for some of the larger ones, but when you get down to these absolutely tiny screws that are in the back of these watches, they aren't good enough. So I really need to buy a professional set of screwdrivers if I've got any chance of doing a proper, well, you know, like a basic service where you need to remove the parts and clean them. So that's something I might look out for in the future, and build up a few watchmaker tools and have a go at doing some basic stuff myself. Anyway guys, thanks for watching and happy watch hunting.